Gone right now to Senator Ben Cardin, sits on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee of the beautiful state of Maryland. Senator, thank you very much for joining us. The president's actions today that target financial interest in Russia, including, if you think about going after oligarchs and banks and that sort of stuff, much like Britain's sanctions, that's by design, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Neil, first of all, it's good to be with you. Look, these are very serious times. The type of sanctions President Biden is employing are meant not only to hurt the Russian economy generally, but to hurt the way in which Mr. Putin finances his operations, but through his oligarchs. So the banking systems where they won't be able to do banking, the personal sanctions, all those are meant as a clear message to Mr. Putin that we're going to go as close as we possibly can to him in our sanctions.
You know, it doesn't seem to be deterring him, Senator. When you get these reports that he's even overruling his own, well, his version of a cabinet and his own Security Council, they're shaking their heads like he's doing this on his own. So any financial pressure on him as one of the world's richest men, I'm sure a good deal of that dough is shoveled away in a place that we can't get at it. I'm beginning to wonder if these financial threats are just not registering.
Well, I think Mr. Putin had made a decision some time ago that he was going to invade Ukraine. I don't think the sanctions would be enough to change his game plan. However, when you hit his oligarchs and his network, it really does affect him and will weigh in on his decision-making going forward. So these types of sanctions do have an impact. Secondly, to the extent that it impacts on the Russian people itself, his popularity could be altered, as well as we know the cost of a war in regards to casualties. So there's additional issues going into the calculations here. We know one person made this decision, that's Mr. Putin. Our intelligence sources told us that was decided several weeks ago when he started moving in the necessary troops and the support system. So I would acknowledge that sanctions were a long shot the threat of sanctions were a long shot to stop him. We had to do everything we possibly can, but the sanctions will have a biting impact on him and will hurt him personally and certainly hurt his country.
It'll hurt us too, though, won't they, Senator? If you think about it, oil prices are now in and out of better than decade highs. We've seen gas prices run up, heating oil, natural gas prices go up. How do you tell Americans that this response is worth it?
Well, Neil, it's an excellent question. If we said, OK, we'll let Mr. Putin take Ukraine, maybe next is China taking Taiwan, then the whole security fabric of Europe could be jeopardized. We know that Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia are very much in Mr. Putin's grasp. We could find the whole security network being challenged, and that would have a far, far more detrimental impact on Americans. So we have to draw the line. We have to make it clear that we will not allow Mr. Putin to compromise sovereignty of other countries. If he does, there's a heavy price he has to pay. And yes, we'll pay a price, but nowhere near the price that Mr. Putin will pay or Russia will pay, and nowhere near as severe if we just let him continue to do this type of taking.
You know, Senator, as you know better than I, oil is the currency for almost everything that Vladimir Putin wants to do. His country is a huge manufacturer of oil. And right now, that currency has gone up. Good for him. And the argument goes that he will more than likely find enough willing customers, even in the black market, to pick up the oil that we prevent others from buying. And that China could be a customer. Other countries could find a way of getting that oil. If China does get that oil or gets a lot of that oil, should we punish them as well?
Well, first, Mr. Putin uses energy as a weapon. He always had. That's why many of us were strongly opposed to Nord Stream 2. We're glad to see that's been put on hold by the Germans. That's an important step that will financially hurt Russia. Make no mistake about that. So we recognize that we're having an impact on his energy policy by our sanctions. as far as secondary sanctions are concerned, they're a little bit more complicated, a little bit more difficult politically. I think we have to be very strategic in the manner in which we deal with other countries as it relates to
would you recommend
what they
that,
do.
Senator? It's clear. It's clear. You almost get a feeling that Vladimir Putin has checked with some allies and friends, the biggest of which is Xi Jinping in China. You know, this oil that could be taken off the markets, there's plenty of it there for you. And is that maybe explaining the bold kind of in-your-face response Putin has had, that even though, you know, oil that he is generating might be closed off to much of the Western world, he's got plenty of customers, and he doesn't think we're going to do anything about it and limiting their ability to buy it?
Well, I don't agree that he has plenty of customers, but I do agree there are other customers that are available. China made pretty strong statements at the United Nations against what Mr. Putin was doing. I think if we have unity among our Western partners, we need to sit down and talk to China about alternative sources of energy so that we deal with the challenges presented by Russia's energy supplies being under sanction, and find alternative ways that we can help other countries deal with their energy needs and not have to rely on Russia.
So back to Americans, Senator, if you'll indulge me on the oil, the gas question. The president has hinted about opening up the Strategic Petroleum Reserve even more to deal with these high prices. Do you believe that's warranted? And do you also think it might be a good idea to scrap the federal gasoline tax? And while, you know, Washington has added to implore states to do the same with their own state taxes to buffer this gas blow to American drivers?
Well, I think it may be too early to tell in regards to the Strategic Oil Reserve. That's there to make sure we have adequate supply, but also we have stability in price. So let's see what happens on energy prices. Let's see what we can do in using that strategic reserve. That's a tool we have. We should be prepared to use it. And I think President Biden will use it in order to stabilize not only the supply, but the price of oil here in the United States, and helping our allies do exactly the same. The federal gasoline tax is an issue that's under consideration. We have to deal with real cost centers that are affecting Americans. As a result of COVID-19, to me, the most critical needs are to deal with the supply chain issues and make sure we have adequate supply and deal with adequate labor force here in the United States. I think they have been the two major reasons we're seeing escalating costs. In regards to oil, let's wait to see what happens in regards to this conflict on oil prices.
Well, obviously, this conflict has been lifting those prices and making that sprint a little bit more aggressive. But, Senator, would you yourself be open to temporarily dropping the federal gasoline tax?
Well, Neil, I'll take a look at it. I have concerns about making sure we have adequate resources to deal with America's transportation infrastructure. And, of course, those funds go directly for that. There are different proposals out there on how we handle that particular issue. So I think we also need to look at not only the short-term funding for transportation, but also long-term funding for transportation. So I know there are better ways out there than a federal gasoline tax, and I hope we'll have those conversations.
All right, sir, I want to thank you very much for joining us. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee member, Senator Ben Cardin, a Democrat from the state of Maryland.